caught up with him. Those fingers, they wrapped themselves around him. They began to wrap themselves around his throat and choke him. And he got the third bunch of flowers, the bunch of St. John's wort, and he threw those over his shoulder. There was a scream and a splash, and now the river was a roaring, raging, angry torrent. It rushed forward towards the bridge. You could see the moonlight shining on the parapet of the bridge. And as he rushed towards the bridge, those fingers began to wrap themselves around him again. They began to pull at him. But he fought free, and he stumbled onto the bridge. And he staggered across the bridge at Cromford. And on the other side of the bridge is a shrine. And he collapsed, exhausted and terrified in that shrine.
They began to gather the wild things. How did they do that? How did they do that? I don't know, but they did. And then one day, a child stood in front of Noah and said, "Grandfather, how can I catch a lion? I mean, how can I catch a jackal or a wolf? It'll tear me to pieces." And Noah laughed, a big laugh, so big the child shook in his arms. And early the next morning, he set out before the sun had risen, up onto the mountain and into a cave. And there was sleeping the lion and the lioness, and Noah had such a peace in his heart. He was able to harness the lion and the lioness and bring them down into the valley.
Den stora hävden alltså, droppade ner lite whisky och då undrade vad är och så bara tak och väggar. Jag trodde han var intagen. Han var i Egos kök då. Så han började flaxa om.
Well, they were walking along this avenue in the dusk, somewhere in France, in the countryside. And they could see up ahead a chateau, a castle, and they could see that the lights were lit in the rooms and the windows were open, but nobody seemed to be inside. The front door was wide open. And Heriuchi and her sisters, they were tired from walking and travelling, so they went into this big, empty castle. And they walked down a long corridor and they heard